What's good, everybody? We're back here in the trap. We got your boys Grego and Tony, and we're here with two representatives from the Oakland Roots. We got Edreece and Dembakwe representing the Oakland Roots. Welcome to the show, guys. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
y'all.
And we got Grego, of course, on the line. So, Oakland Roots. I would say that a lot of people might notice some of the logo and some of the branding that's going around, but can you give us a little background information about how Oakland Roots came to be?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys, for having us once again. It means a lot. My name is Edreece. As mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders and the chief marketing officer. This project has been a labor of love for the past 3 years. Myself and my co-founder, Benno, were both born and raised in Oakland in the greater Bay Area. And have gone in and out and done our thing and grow up and came back and asked the question, why isn't there professional soccer in Oakland? Every time we have a Liga MX team, Chivas or Club America, or even a Real Madrid and Barcelona, we sell out 17, 20,000 people at the Coliseum. So there's no shortage of an appetite in Oakland for the sport of soccer. And that comes from the diversity that we see in the city. I mean, there's a lot of cultures, and majority of those cultures subscribe to soccer and what it does for the community. And so we've always asked the question, like, why don't we have a pro team, and why hasn't it existed in the Bay Area, specifically San Francisco, Oakland, and the East Bay? We have a team out in San Jose, but there's nothing really on this side. And we asked that question for 3 years, engaged with the community, learned a lot, listened a lot. And then more importantly, coupled that question with why hasn't pro soccer organizations really taken the cap of like branding and merchandising and marketing, and really taking it to the next level. And we see, the likes of Atlanta, LAFC really own that and have done tremendously well in the MLS and specifically in U.S. soccer pyramid. But not really on the other, larger scale. We haven't seen any teams do it at that scale. There's clubs like Detroit City and Chattanooga that we look up to and admire because of what they've been able to do grassroots level, but nothing else. And we coupled our branding and marketing experience with the question of why doesn't pro soccer exist in Oakland, and the idea really took shape and people subscribed to it. And we were lucky enough to have an investor group that believed in the notion that a team in Oakland doesn't necessarily have to park the bus and say that it's high level pro soccer, but we could allow for it to be a vehicle for change and give back to the city and create a funnel for youth and do a lot of cool activation pieces that we don't see too much in U.S. soccer. So all of that really kind of converged and became a reality. And I'll say it, man, I honestly don't even know how we got here. It's just when you build, forgive my language, when you build shit that is for the people and people enjoy it and subscribe to it, they'll insulate you and they'll support you. And quite frankly, the city of Oakland has put the Roots on their back and has helped us. And it's all them. Not much of us, just us working hard and trying to build something for them.
That's an awesome story. I mean, I have to say, as far as like the branding aspect, like y'all won me right away as a fan, because when I started seeing the logo and how like some of the social media stuff that y'all put out there, I was like, first y'all caught my attention with that. I mean, I think the logo and just the color palette, I was like, okay, they got something cool. It's definitely your system of using a tree as a logo is 10 times better than Austin's. That's just me.
No disrespect to Austin, but
no disrespect. Yeah, we gotta be real with our taste, because best believe before the season starts, we're going to rate jerseys and the eye candy piece of it all. So cool to see that. But then the other part of me, when I saw that Mr. Dembakwe was a part. I had to say, I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, how did that come to be?
Yeah, I'll hand it off to Dembakwe, man. That's all you, brother.
Oh, okay. Well, no, again, just, seconding what Edreece said. It's a crazy situation. that we find ourselves in for me to be again at a new club. But the thing about this club is that it stands out, and it stood out to me from, from the first person that called me, the first person I had a conversation with. And it all just came about. I was, with LA Galaxy, over the course of preseason, and thought everything was going well there. And I was seeing every now and then a couple of Oakland Roots posts. There weren't many things being posted yet, not much players, but it was just the branding, the videos, the first player signing happened to be Devontae DeBose, who I had, some relationship with, knowing him prior. So I just said, yo, dude, this looks awesome. What's going on? You guys look like you're really you're trying to target a different type of fan base. You're trying to, maneuver away into a different style of culture in U.S. soccer. And I was just like, look, whoever needs to get any of my information, go ahead and pass it along. And it didn't take too long for someone to reach out to me. And like I said, from the minute I got the first phone call, I realized, this is a team that is not, as Edreece said, just not strictly about, soccer. It's about the next thing, which is, the next generation, which is having a foothold in the community and what's going on, and being influential to the people that we're around and we're able to have outreach to. And being, where I've played and where I've been, that kind of was the next thing that intrigued me was, what's next for me? What can I use and give all of my experience being everywhere as I've been as an American player? How can I come back and give it to a bunch of kids who look like me in Oakland? I'm from Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta when I was 2 years old from Sierra Leone. So, but I really grew up with really traditional parents. And Atlanta was a how I'll describe as a melting pot, from my elementary school days all the way up to high school, the different type of people I was around. Oakland just seemed, from the videos, from everything I was hearing, to be an ideal next step for me to grow as a person and grow as a player. So that's kind of how it all came along. And like I said, since I've been in the city, it's even more appealing than when you see, everything that's going on social media and the fantastic team that we have working there. But once you're around it and you start to see it first-handedly, the coaches, Edreece, and, everybody who's done so much to get it to where it's been, you want to do your best here. You want to do everything you can to continue to build and make it the best, the best, I would say, startup, because it is a startup. We are building from ground up all the way to we're not just, as Edreece said, trying to get, a big investor and trying to become an MLS team, but we're really trying to target, the grassroots. And like I said, for me, that really stood out to me. So that's kind of how I got here. So yeah.
So, Edreece, I mean, both of you touched upon the part, like, the connection to the community of Oakland. Since Oakland is such a unique and, it has such a rich culture there, what are some of the projects that you have either currently going on or plan to do as far as, like, the connection to the community going forward?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, I go back to like 3 years ago when we first asked that question. Immediately after, as a group, we scheduled a session at Cliff Bar, the company who was really kind enough to sponsor a brown paperback session, where we sat with the community and said, look, I'm going to sit up here on these stools and I'm going to listen to y'all and hear about what are some of your concerns about professional sports. And I want to hear about it firsthand from all of you guys. And we got drilled. Benno and I sat there, and it was just like 2 hours of complete drilling, but we listened and we didn't fight back. It's all about understanding where people's perspectives are coming from. From there, we established a community advisory board of, the OGs in Oakland and the pillars that really represent the diversity and culture. And those folks helped us create the identity of the club. So one of my good friends is Matthew Wolf, who's with Nike and who designed a lot of the World Cup kits that you see in the World Cup, including the famous Nigeria kit. And when we sat down and we designed the kit, we even allowed for the community to be involved with the creation of the name. I mean, we were Funktown FC at some point. We were the Town SC. I mean, it was just all over the place. And when we came to the Roots, we thought about, you know, the iconic tree in Oakland and how meaningful the oak tree is. But then thinking about, you know, there ain't no tree without roots, and you don't know where you're going unless you know where you come from. And that rung well with the community. And, you know, we even included the mosaic of color because, you know, Oakland is about diversity and color and embracing the differences that we have in our community. So even from a brand identity standpoint, it was key for us to think about the community. And ever since then, every initiative that we've had, we've thought about the Oakland first lens. So, you know, the Women's World Cup happened, you know, a little bit ago, and we rented out the Grand Lake Theater, an iconic theater in Oakland, for the first time ever to view a Women's World Cup final. And in about 90 minutes plus, we raised over $6,000 for Soccer Without Borders, which is a program here in Oakland that brings in refugees and folks that are from different parts of the world and gives them a funnel, being soccer, to be a part of the community and hopefully grow to be a professional. And actually, Johannes Harris, one of our professionally signed players, is a byproduct of that program and is now signed to an Oakland team. We signed, you know, 6 now, Oakland born and raised players, including Devontae, Dylan, Nikolai, Julio Cervantes, and a couple more. And that these folks are a byproduct of our community initiative. It's important to have Oakland representation in the team. It's important that these kids have a funnel and a way to look up to the players. And there's other initiatives that we're doing for game day as well. So it's, you know, a lot of professional teams will throw tickets at the community and they'll say, hey, come to our games. But they don't realize that the issue is not free tickets. It's getting safely to the games and having food to eat at the games, right?
Yep.
So, you know, when you think about the kid in the East Oakland or West Oakland, North Oakland, wherever they are, you know, sometimes they don't have the greatest means to get to games and it's not safe to get to games. So, you know, we think on a level of, okay, well, if kids can't get to a game, can we bus them over? And that's exactly what we're doing with Street Soccer USA, an organization here in Oakland. And we're busing 50 of their kids from their headquarters over to our soccer game. And we plan to feed them and we plan to get them home safely. And that's how you create an ambassador. And that's how you create a member of your culture and your club. And those are just very, you know, tip of the iceberg examples of what we're doing with the community. And we've engaged so many different levels. I can run down a list for hours of the things that we're interested in doing and want to do and have done. But those are minor examples of the community work that we're trying to do.
Good God, you're speaking my language, man. Like all of my alley.
Let me jump up in here real quick, man. So Edreece, kind of like piggybacking on what you've been talking about, like what, especially as you being the chief marketing officer of the team, like tell us about like what type of branding culture are you trying to create, both with the team itself as well as with the community in Oakland?
Yeah. So, you know, from the get-go, I'll tell you that the lifestyle merchandise that we've created, and just to give you guys a little background, I come from a branding and marketing background. So I, you know, was at Apple for a little bit. Prior to that, I did some work with Translation LLC, helped bring McDonald's McCafe from Europe to America. And I was working with Sean John on his cologne and his campaign for a little bit. And some of these experiences had contributed, you know, to my experience in brand building. And then even more so, the influence of the Ye's of the world, the Virgil Ablohs of the world, and just being entrenched in fashion through my wife, who, you know, is without her, I probably wouldn't have half the taste in the world. But it's all these things that contributed to the way I see the world. And the way I see the world, quite frankly, is to challenge assumptions. You know, if a executive says that this is the way it's done, I usually take it, I flip it, and I reverse it, and I challenge it, because the way we've built this brand and the way that Oakland has survived for so long and it's maintained its identity is by saying no sometimes and saying, I don't agree with you, and if everyone had the right answer to do things, everyone would be successful in this world. And that's just not the case. So for us at the Roots, it's challenging assumptions, it's being blue collar, it's saying, this isn't a typical brand and identity. We want to have the skate girl at the town skate park at Defirmary wear our merchandise and feel like she's a part of the club and culture. We want the fencer at the local club down there in downtown to feel like the fencer can wear the Roots and be a part of that. It's about civic pride and unity. And soccer just happens to be the vehicle for that. It just happens to be a vehicle. So sometimes, we get folks wearing the Roots gear and, someone will stop them and say, hey, nice shirt. Did you know it was a soccer team? And oftentimes we get the answer of, no, I didn't know. I just thought it was cool and it represents Oakland. And I'm like, exactly, that's exactly what we want to happen.
You did your
and
job.
Sometimes people knock us for that. They're like, well, you got to spread the awareness of football. And I'm like, no. What you don't understand is when people wear the shirt and they walk around the city, you create ambassadors and eyeballs of a brand they've never seen before. And one day when they learn about the fact that it's a soccer team, they inevitably become a lifetime fan because you've already gotten their buy-in without selling on them,
Yep.
And that's what a lot of clubs be doing nowadays in the MLS structures. Like park a bus, we're billionaires, we have hella money, we're gonna throw these shirts out and we want you to buy it. And it's like, that's just not the methodology in which we're creating this club. It's grassroots, no pun intended, and we luckily, I'll tell you, we have the investors that believe in that exact notion and initiative. And that's the type of culture that we're trying to build, bottom up, top down, whatever you want to say, but from the grassroots, and everyone's subscribing to it. We want to be here for a long time, not only for soccer, but beyond that.
That actually leads me right to my next question, because you guys, of course, your first game is next Saturday in Oakland, and this is not just your first game as a club, but it's also the first game for the league that you're a part of, NISA. I've been following this project for maybe about 2 years now, and I know it's kind of been up and down as far as like what teams were going to be involved. Tell us about what the league is about and what they're trying to do as a whole for to contribute to American soccer.
Yeah, great question. So I'll just start off with, every time people see our brand or they see what we're doing, they ask, are you guys an MLS team?
Yeah.
And my initial my initial response to that is like, okay, we need a $250 million buy-in to MLS, and we need a stadium that's worth $250 million or more. Do we need to build that way right now, or do we need to invest in the infrastructure in the community and build a team that can last by really working hard in the community? So we went to visit Portland Timbers and Thorns organization. I'll tell you, they're some of my favorite folks in the world, along with Atlanta United and LAFC folks, because they align so closely on the community and brand initiatives. And some of the biggest lessons I learned from that conversation I had with their executive team is, they invested heavily for 7 to 10 years in the community. And they since then have done, they do ticketing work and outreach and all that, but the community shows up 17,000, 20,000 for women's games, for men's games, because they've done the due diligence in the community, right? And so we're piggybacking off of that model, and we're doing something similar. And we don't think that we need to buy into $200 million right now to do that. Let's build a grassroots club and let's do it independently. And, our goal is to play the highest level of professional soccer, period. And if it means that one day in the future, we'll get there. But right now, NISA, the National Independent Soccer Association, is our like immediate, aligned league. And, they're a sanctioned professional league in the U.S. Soccer Federation pyramid. And, we're approved to play international games. We can sign professional contracts. We can act and operate as a professional club without investing heavy in the infrastructure of a stadium and so on. And actually, we can invest in a stadium like Laney College, which is an iconic and historic venue in Oakland, without stressing too much and really just build from the grassroots. So we aligned with the league on that side. It's a newly sanctioned league, so they're in their first, year ever. And the game on the 31st is actually not only the Oakland Roots' first game ever, but Nice's first game ever. So we're a little bit of stress and pressure, but it's a monumental moment, not only for the city of Oakland, but for the independent soccer movement in America.
Good. All right, so Mbagwe, got a question for you, man. So, obviously, we've had our connection back in, when you were at Paideia and everything. And the one thing when you were, I think, in 8th grade, Coach Eric and I were always like, yo, we got to get Mbagwe on the team. He's a grown man. And the running joke we had for you while you were in junior high was like, we call him Mr. Mbagwe. Like, he doesn't call us Mr. We call you Mr. But
that's funny.
The thing I want to know is that, you obviously with your stints that you played in Spain with Atletico Madrid and Orlando and San Jose and Reno and all that, who are some of the best players that you've either played with or played against that you were just like, good God, they're on a whole nother level?
Well, by the way, that's funny. Now it makes sense why you guys are calling me that back then. But, I was always realizing, but I get that question a lot, to be honest, from a lot of people, and it ranges. I was lucky enough to play with Lucas Hernandez, who won the World Cup with France, last year. I was lucky enough to train with Atletico Madrid's first team two to three times a week. So that was in the year where we had just won La Liga, beaten Barcelona, and going all the way to the finals with Real Madrid. So going there, that was really the biggest club in the world at that time to me. I'm a diehard Man United fan, but
I was going to bring that up. Don't worry, that's coming on later.
Yeah,
don't worry.
Absolutely. But being a 17-year-old kid who, like I said, grew up in Atlanta, I didn't have, Atlanta United wasn't a thing yet. So this was the biggest thing. To me, I was committed to University of North Carolina, but I was kind of in a stage where I was like, I want to do something out of this world. I want to do something that not many people have done. So I took that opportunity, went over there, and like I said, there were just players every day, whether it was on my under 21 team who, I'd be like, man, how'd you do that? And then you go up to the first team and you're seeing guys like Mario Mandzukic and, Fernando Torres. And, I have the most interesting story with Fernando Torres. I'm training with the first team one day and we're doing like 6v6 to goal. And, this guy walks up to me and he asks me in Spanish, ¿Cómo se llama? What is your name? And I tell him, my name's Boxi. And he says, okay, in Spanish, my name is Fernando. And I'm looking at this guy like, yeah, dude, like you need to introduce yourself to me. Like I've been playing with you on FIFA since I could watch TV, So just seeing that humility from them, seeing how Diego Simeone just can, the culture of that club and watching how much of a belief system the team has, and it's in a way very similar to what they're trying to do here in our locker room in Oakland, which is the community based. Atletico Madrid's really different than Real Madrid. Real Madrid's kind of in the nice part, the suburbs, the business town, the stadium, the Bernabeu is there, and Atletico Madrid is more of a working class. They grinded for everything that they had. Simeone's real down to the grit, as you guys see on the touchline. So being in that environment, for an American was the most eye-opening thing, because no matter how big the club was, it was with the same context of, you're not lucky to be here. You got to work every single day for what this is, and that's why you're going to be here. So, every player that was there had that mentality, which is what I was going to go back to. So that, there was a lot of good players that I played with.
Yeah. that actually goes back to something that we were talking about during last week's episode, Coach. We've been talking about the Marcus Beasley and how he's been talking about a lot of young kids coming up. Once they break into the first team, it's like they kind of have that sense of entitlement, thinking that hey, this is going to be a step.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What would you probably say is probably the biggest culture shock when you got into that environment in Spain compared to what you grew up with?
Well, I was coming into a time, I was kind of right on the beginning cusp of when social media and became really, really influential in
because I remember like when Twitter was popping off right then, and that's how I was keeping up with how you were doing over there.
Exactly. So I was coming into a time where it was everything that was becoming social media based, and so it was known really quickly that there's an American kid at Atletico Madrid. He's the only one that's ever been there. There's a lot you have to deal with in terms of I would say maybe the expectation, and then being an American in a foreign country, and then being an American playing soccer in a foreign country, and then speaking the language, so, and again, being 17 years old, and I was still, doing my senior year of high school, which was another completely different aspect of life that, the kids over there weren't, experiencing. I had to come back from training every day and, get on the computer and do hours and hours of American schoolwork just so I could, for myself, I wanted to graduate. So, it was kind of, there was a bunch of hard things, but the hardest probably just be adapting to a new culture in terms of, speaking the language. And because after training, do you go right to your room and lock yourself in the room, or do you go integrate with the team and go into the city? Do you, go call a friend from the States, or, do you go play a game or go see something with your teammates? So if you don't have that base of language, you find yourself playing catch up, you feel out of place, and I had to deal with that a lot. And that was probably the hardest, because the football part, you're there for a reason, you have to have confidence, you have to have, your ability is there. But then you realize really quickly there's a lot more to soccer than just showing up on the field. Mentality, as I said, Diego Simeone, mentality sets you apart, will make you a champion or will make you a loser. So that's kind of were the hardest, things to deal with.
Well answered. I like that. So I have a question then, as far as like, you obviously talked about the grind of having to, bust out the schoolwork, and, you've been a professional for some time now. How many years is it now that you've been a professional?
This is my 5th year now.
Wow.
And I'm 22 years old, so I feel old, but like I said, it's I embrace the fact that I have so much knowledge behind me.
You are an old man.
I'm saying now, I really am. So yeah.
No, so what are some of the things that you think about, like life after soccer? After footy is done, are there some projects and things that you're kind of brewing and trying to stir up yourself, or are you trying to keep that under wraps? I mean,
absolutely. No, absolutely. And like I said, when I in the introduction, that was a big part of everything that intrigued me with the Roots. When my career hasn't been as rosy as it should be, and I'm glad, because it has shown me what it takes to make it, how easy it is to be, what the fine lines are. So whenever I'm back home in Atlanta, it always took me to a place where, okay, so what is next? How do you want to be a coach? Okay, yeah, that's cool. You've been around a lot of places. You have, a lot of experience. How do you want to coach? What do you want to do? So, about 2 years ago, I just started doing a bunch of, private sessions with, first I started with my best friend's little brothers and his teammates. And it was just such a natural calling, it was just a thing that I was able to express myself and express my creativity, because, one of the things I pride myself with on the field or whatever is that I think I like to stand out, whether it's what I wear, whether it's, what I'm doing on the field. I like to be the person that, can make the mark in and be different in the positive way. So that's kind of, in the last couple of years in Atlanta, I started to really build from, again, not to use the same word, but build from the grassroots with, I have, now about 13 to 14 kids that I train private sessions wise in Atlanta. And I have even more parents calling me and texting me, while I'm gone. And the real thing that I tell all the kids that I train is, you train the way you play and you play the way you train, and it's everything is it all comes full circle. So what you put in is what you're going to get out. And maybe that's kind of what I wish, I knew when I was younger, just because, it's not going to be as easy as it may seem. So whether you're doing a drill and you do it 5 times and you think, okay, I got it. Okay, we'll do it 10 times and do it perfectly. Do it 11 times, and coming over to here, I really saw that there was a big potential, a big, whether it was the Hispanic community. Now I speak Spanish now, which is, one of the biggest, grateful things I have. So actually amongst the Roots team, I mostly speak Spanish in the locker room, and everybody's like, dude, it's crazy how you speak Spanish. And I'm like, man, I remember when I was in Spain and I used to stare everybody in the eye and ask them with Google Translate questions. So coming to Oakland, my next step was just really, how can I take what I'm doing into Atlanta into a place where they haven't had it before, like, Edreece has said multiple times, this is the first thing in Oakland. So I'm in a place where, like I said, I feel like I've learned enough, but I'm also young enough to make them be like, look, I'm still one of you. I'm not some old guy telling you this thing or somebody from a different generation. I'm somebody who was in your shoes 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That's kind of where the next step is for me. And I'm in the best place, I think, to do it. Like I said, with the foundation that's being built and just the vision of we're not here just for today and tomorrow and to have, the hype for the first game. We're here for, the long term, whether it's, as Edreece said, whichever league it is, that's not the concern, because as the team gets back, which I've seen in Europe, there's 3rd division clubs, 4th division clubs that get 10, 15,000 people at games. And it's because it's built from a core, from real belief, So, the Roots is for sure, the best place for me to take that next step in terms of where I want to be after soccer.
Cool. Well, I know Gregor's probably got another question, but I have one more question that's very important. So the Blackway, like, talk about next step. What do you think is the next step for Manchester United as far as where we need to go direction wise?
Oh man, we're gonna need our own podcast for that one, man. I wake up over here on the West Coast at 5 a.m. to games, and sometimes I wish I got the extra hour of sleep. But the thing is, and as I just said, we have, and it's crazy to say young players because they're my age, but we have a bunch of youth. And the thing about youth is that it's gonna be inconsistent sometimes. It's gonna be, it's not always gonna be as easy as they think. Rashford, Martial, these are all the most talented guys ever. And like I said, you just need that core, that player, those players or coach to be like, look, this is what we do. This is what we're going to believe in, and we're going to do it this way. So I think we started off well with signing Maguire. If we can keep Pogba, that'll be beneficial. But I think we got a ways to go, man. It's going to be a tough couple years for us, but that's why we're fans of it.
That's true. Just so you know, also that like myself, along with Grego and Ringo, who's another one of our co-hosts of the show, and Rashad, we're all Manchester United fans. But Ringo has changed squads now. He has become an Arsenal fan. So. He's a fan.
Bound for more disappointment. So that's he's bound for more disappointment if that's what he wants to do. Best of luck to him. I'll be a United fan until we get relegated before I ever.
Exactly.
But no, Edreece, of course, we would be remiss if we didn't, talk about the supporters. I actually just finally spotted the supporters group for the Roots, the Hidden Leaves. What can you tell us about them and like the relationship that y'all been trying to build up with them?
Yeah, man. So the supporters group is an interesting conversation. Like we've learned a lot from the Timbers and other LAFC folks. I've spoken to all these guys that have built these groups, and look, man, Oakland is a polarizing ass place, man. Like you have people on both sides of the spectrum, so it's important that internally we just don't even like we allow folks to build it on their own. Like we don't want to be invasive. We don't want to ask them about their needs or their wants or anything of that sort. It's really just respecting their boundaries, allowing them to create whatever the hell they want to create and create that pathway for themselves. I think the minute you get political with it and you start getting involved and you start finessing it and making them do things for you and that they don't necessarily want to do, that's when things get very muddy and disappointing. It's respecting the supporters group culture and allowing them to create their own identity. And then if they ever come to us and say, hey, fam, we need help, then we are always there for them. But it's respecting the boundaries and allowing for them to create the culture themselves. I told this to the players early on and in the front office when we first got started is, culture is when brand and action in the community come together and converge. And you can't just speak about it and talk to people about culture. You got to be able to implement that. And that's why I respect what you guys are doing so much. It's because it's putting those things into work. So that's what we're focused on. And we believe in our supporters and we want them to be successful, but at the same time, we don't want to shape their story and their narrative. I think every one of our supporters, and it's not just the Hidden Leaves, it's a lot of other folks as well that I think are popping up here and there. It's allowing for them to dictate their own story and their narrative. And then look, if they come to us and they want a bucket for a smoke bomb, we got them. But we're not gonna tell them how to be a supporters group. That's on them.
Yeah, with everything that's been going on lately with most of the MLS teams and supporters groups, it's definitely refreshing to hear that that you have that you're allowing that freedom for them to kind of build that build that culture for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see the Hidden Leaves got their own identity. We just saw all that pop up out of nowhere with their own brand, own logo, and own stuff. And I think that's a beautiful thing, man. It's a blank canvas. The Roots is. It's Boxi was talking about it. Is we want this to be a platform for everyone. We've been having relationships with Champion and Nike and Oaklandish, a local brand, and some of our players have taken interest in learning about merchandising and marketing and so on. And it's opening up the door. It's family. It's not front office versus technical staff. We're all in it together and we're all trying to grow, and the supporters group are building in the same fashion and format. So you just got to respect it and allow for them to build on their own, and then provide infrastructure and support if they ask for it.
Cool. So that leads us to the big days. Next Saturday, the 31st, first game. This open up for both of you guys. Like what are you guys expecting, on the field and in the stands? What are you guys shooting for?
Yeah, Boxi, you could take the lead, and then I'll piggyback off of you on this one.
Okay, no worries. He has one answer for that. He better answer correctly.
Well, without putting too much pressure on the team that I'm sure we already have.
That's why I let you answer.
Edreece already told us it's his birthday next week. So we can't
man, no pressure.
Hey, it's the dirty 30. And before Boxi answers though, I gotta say something, man. I saw Boxi playing a scrimmage. That man's scary, man. That man's scary.
Grown man.
He got the Kobe jaw going. He be snapping at the players.
Oh, no.
Man,
Oh, no.
I was scared
no.
of jumping on this podcast with Boxy, to be honest, bro. But we're good. We're good.
Well, but no. To answer that question truthfully, is that we're all that intensity is what we're all bringing. You know, every
Yep.
single player is bringing that because this is a platform. It's a platform for us to do something special, to be the first to do something special. You know, and I don't take that lightly. I don't take that with a grain of salt. None of the players do.
Yeah.
Paul, the head coach, who's been hampering on us the whole preseason, as well as Jordan, the assistant coach, who's done a great job with keeping us in tune with the ideas. You know, we all just have an expectation, and we all, you know, we want to hold each other accountable. We want to show up on the first day and feel like, you know what, we made the city proud. You know, the groundwork that Edreece and Steven and everyone and Benno, who's put their name and footprint on this team. We want to just show them and have them enjoy it, really. And like I said, I'm the type of player that, you know, I want the fans to get up off their feet. I want them to think, you know what, there's always going to be an opportunity for us to score. And we have a bunch of great players. You know, Benji, who's a local, who has played in Mexico. Jack McInerney, who is from Atlanta as well, who was in Atlanta, you know, really big Atlanta soccer legend to me growing up. And he's coming here after many years in the MLS and coming here and bringing his expertise. So from the ground up, the center back, Victor Bernardes, who's played in 2 World Cups. So all around, man, we have the coaching staff. They've done a fantastic job integrating a bunch of people with a bunch of ideas. And the last 3 to 4 weeks has just been, you know, hampering down. So I definitely think next Friday, I mean, we're trying to do our part. We definitely believe the city will do their part. You know, Edreece and everyone in the backroom staff and the front office, they've done phenomenally. They've done their part as well. So, you know, it's all coming together, I think, full circle at the right time. I have friends flying in from Atlanta. So it's a big occasion, you know, regardless of where I played, regardless of what I've done. For me, you know, if I get a chance to step on that field, it's going to be, you know, something I'm not going to take lightly. I'm going to, you know, embrace it because, you know, it's an amazing thing to be the first to do it for a city that has shown so much, you know, just so much satisfaction for what we're doing as a whole. So, you know, leading up to that game, you know, we're just ready to go. You know, like I said, it's Edreece's birthday, so hopefully we can get him something to cheer about up there. But
it's all you guys. We do it for y'all, and we do it for the city. And look, we're shutting down East 10th Street, which is a street that's on Laney College, and we're doing a festival pre-game block party with, you know, some Bay Area legends and, you know, food and drinks. And look, it's a community event, and everyone is here to support our boys, and that's number one. We just want everyone to come together. Everyone of different neighborhoods, different color, different beliefs. This is a safe place, and you know, I'm just thankful that we're here and we're finally kicking off. It's been a long time, for sure.
absolutely.
I thought you lobbed up a perfect scenario to say you were doing it for the city, you're doing this, and I thought you were going to say for sure we do it
For the culture.
Oh man, you had that one moment.
It's at that
I
live.
fucked it up. I messed it up. I messed it up.
Don't worry. I'll make sure I get a celebration that reps you guys if I'm able to get on the score sheet.
Bet.
I'll get you.
Absolutely.
You heard it. No pressure again.
That's what I'm saying. You know, now I got to go to sleep. You know, practice tomorrow, but
yeah. For the culture, fam. For the culture.
Yes. Again, next Saturday, Roots SC. Y'all playing Cal United Strikers. First game of the NISA. Good luck to you guys. Of course, where can they find you guys on the socials? Of course, this definitely, you know, supporting local soccer is always, you know, one thing that we always are about.
Absolutely.
Much love.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me for sure. Like I said, Tony has been a big fan of mine. I've been a big fan of his. He's always held me down in high school and 8th grade. You know, so just giving back to him and for what he's doing and the platform he's trying to put out there, I'm completely on board. So thank you for having me.
Oh, much love, man. Much
Thanks,
love. You
guys.
know, we're growing your fandom right now, so we're going to give you another 12, 13 followers. But, you know, we working on it.
We're going up there. That's what I'm saying. Once I get that, once we
We're-
get out there, we all eating. So don't worry.
Exactly.
That's the life. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me at Boxi07 on Instagram. And you know, Edreece can go ahead and give you all
Yeah.
the details.
Oakland Roots,
the
just search it up. Oakland Roots SC, and I think we're struggling a little bit with trying to get Oakland Roots handles from different people because it's such a generic name. But you know, if you search Oakland Roots, you know, we will inevitably come up and be good to go. And so, you know, it's all Gucci there, and we're excited. And you know, give us a follow, keep up with our journey, and I appreciate you guys.
And we appreciate y'all. We definitely. Hey, you got a bunch of new fans following y'all now from here in Atlanta. That's for sure.
Awesome.
Yes, keep up the good work, keep up the movement. Like I said, you know, we'll definitely be watching. Hopefully, we can get out there real soon.
Great, Grego. Thank you, man.
Cool. Y'all
Thanks,
take it.
y'all. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.